Young Charles is brought to the island sometime during the 1950s by, presumably, Richard Alpert. He is a devout believer in the island, willing to maim and kill on command. He meets John Locke, who claims to be from the future. Charles falls in love with fellow other Eloise. She becomes the leader of the others and wages a cold war against Dharma. Charles gets Eloise pregnant and they prepare to parent a child together. A young Dharma defector named Benjamin Linus pops up on Charles's radar after he is healed in their sacred temple waters. Charles is uncertain of this boy from the start. Meanwhile, more people claiming to be from the future show up, including Jack Shepherd and Daniel Faraday. Eloise kills Daniel only to realize that he was her son from the future, and the same man she spoke to as a young woman in 1954. She decides to assist Jack in setting off Jughead to neutralize the electromagnetic leak caused by the incident, thereby preventing the hatch from ever needing to be built. However, they do not realize that this is what always happened and the bomb ultimately ensures that the hatch is built. The Losties vanish in a flash of light after detonation. As far as Charles, Eloise and Richard are concerned, the Losties were all vaporized. Either way, they learn their first lesson about time. The past, and future, cannot be changed. We are never made privy to all of the contents in Faraday's journal, but we can be certain of several things. It is filled with information on the nature of time travel, first and foremost. It features detailed research on the Dharma Initiative. It is also filled with very specific instructions on how to operate the pipelines at the Tempest station, which Widmore will later use against Dharma. But, more importantly, the journal contains information about Desmond Hume, including a chronicle of his meeting with Daniel at Oxford in 1996. It also depicts many details of the future life to be lived by Charles and Eloise's unborn son. They learn about Desmond Hume and future events that have yet to take place, and come to understand that unless the future plays out as written, with Team Sawyer and Team Jack traveling back in time, then the incident will never be averted and the world will end in 1977. If not from the incident, then certainly from a time paradox. This mission to maintain the timeline becomes all-consuming to Eloise in particular. Eloise and Widmore separate after the fallout from the incident causes the pregnancy problem. She leaves the island to plan for the future of her son, while Widmore stays behind. Without Eloise's influence, Widmore allows his worst instincts to take over. He becomes somewhat of a tyrant. He authorizes the purge of Dharma and presides over an island genocide. Following this massacre, Ben engineers a way to overthrow Widmore for breaking the laws of their community. It is implied that the others have strict rules about leaving the island and having relationships with mainlanders. We will explore the rules of the others and the rules of an island protector in a future video. Widmore is banished for leaving the island regularly and having a relationship with a woman from the outside world and getting her pregnant with his daughter Penny. After his exile, Widmore amassed a small fortune and used his money for various enterprises around the globe. He controlled the flow of knowledge regarding the island on the outside world, keeping it hidden and secret from those that might try to seek it out. He never got over Ben's betrayal or his ultimate banishment. Feeling cheated out of his leadership, Widmore spends vast resources in trying to find the island again and taking back his leadership of the others. Meanwhile, Eloise raises their son to fulfill his destiny of becoming a physicist. She controls as much of his life and choices as she can. All in service of leading him to his death on the island at her own hands. Widmore could not forget about his responsibilities to the time loop either. He and Eloise establish an unhappy collaboration in shaping the future in order to fulfill the past. It was no coincidence that Penny met Desmond at the monastery. The monastery shared a connection to the church that Eloise acquired from Dharma and operated out of Los Angeles. We know this church as the lamp post, which is secretly used to track the location of where the island is going to be. We know that there is a connection between the lamp post and Desmond's monastery because of a photo on Brother Campbell's desk. Eloise is a close friend of the institution, as is Charles Widmore, and Penny was there to run an errand for her father. Widmore already knew who Desmond was, and where he needed to go. His subsequent treatment of Desmond was based almost entirely on putting the man on a path to the island. No doubt, Widmore resented Desmond primarily because he knew that the man could do nothing but go on to break his daughter's heart. Desmond's destiny was on the island and in the hatch. The relationship is brought to an end with help from Eloise, who interacts with Desmond's unstuck consciousness with help and guidance from the island. It is never confirmed in canon, but the only way Eloise could have this very specific interaction with Desmond, and to know the fate of the man with red shoes, is if she is also being guided or instructed by the Source in some way. Is it possible that ever since the incident's fallout over the island in 1977 that she has been having flashes of the future just like Desmond did? Is that what made her leave the island and Charles in the first place? We can only speculate, but this remains a likely possibility.
You knew that was going to happen, didn't you?
Meanwhile, Widmore orders his man on the ground, Matthew Abaddon, to watch over another predestined island traveler. John Locke, a man that Widmore met as a young man. Sir Abaddon helps to put John on his path to the island by suggesting the walkabout. An idea John will take up several years later when the timing is right. Thanks to Jack and the Time Travelers from 1977, the crashing of Oceanic 815 is another event Widmore knows is destined to occur, which gives him more than enough time to set up the fake plane wreckage with a full manifest of dead passengers deep in the Sundra Trench. Widmore gathers together other predestined time travelers for the freighter trip, including his son Daniel, Miles Strom, and Charlotte Lewis. Making sure the right people are in place. Both Widmore and Eloise are puppeteering events to ensure that the timeline is fulfilled to avert a paradox. They both know that no matter what they do, Eloise is always destined to murder their son and, tragically, this will help save the world. You can't fight fate. After the freighter departs with a team dedicated to removing Benjamin Linus from power at any cost, the island disappears and the Oceanic Six return home. Charles keeps a watchful eye over them and continues his war with Ben, who employs Saeed to kill members of the Widmore organization. Sometime before Locke's arrival, Charles finds himself visited by Jacob, who sets him back on a righteous path. He tells him to help Locke and the Oceanic Six find their way back to the island. More importantly, Jacob tells him to bring back Desmond, and explains the plan involving removing the cork to depower the Man in Black. This is why, in Season 5, we see mercenaries running around with Tranquilizer attempting to get the Oceanic Six back to the island. They are on Widmore's payroll. However, Ben Linus keeps beating him to the punch in their little chess game over who will get to return to the island first. By the time Charles and Eloise reunite, after Desmond is shot and put in hospital by a vengeful Ben, it becomes clear that the journal has finally run its course. Now that the Oceanic Six have gone back to the island and hit the time window, Eloise's destiny has been met and fulfilled. And, as she says to Penny, for the first time in a long time she doesn't know what is going to happen. Charles Widmore, however, has one last job to do before he fulfills his destiny. Bringing back Desmond to the island. Widmore was driven by ego and ambition most of his life. But he also had an awareness of future events and the need to fulfill the timeline in order to save the world. Yes, he was a ruthless man who stepped on people to get the outcomes he believed were necessary, and he was ultimately blinded by his vendetta against the man who betrayed and usurped him. Which is ultimately his downfall. But he managed to start batting for the good guys just in the nick of time thanks to a visit from Jacob. Before his death, he manages to redeem his blood-soaked legacy by helping the island defeat an enemy far worse than he ever was. Thanks for watching. More videos will be released soon. Until then, stay lost.